Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I am the Director of Community Engagement, and today I am joined by Cynthia. Buen rostro. I totally messed it
No,
up.
you didn't. You did good. You did good.
um, she is our outreach specialist here in the Modesto office, and she spent some of her teenage years in foster care, so she's going to share some of her experience with us. If you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to write it in the chat, and after she shares her story, we'll ask some questions to get a little bit more feedback and everything. So, um, go ahead and tell us how you got into foster care.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Cynthia, like she said, and I entered foster care at 15 years old. My mom had some drug issues, and her boyfriend had sexually abused me. So that's kind of how I got placed into foster care. Um, Once I got placed into foster care, I had moved around quite a bit. I had been in 9 different places before I had aged out at the age of 18. My first home that I lived in was, it was very cold and not too interactive with the foster mom, and I was only there one night, so that experience was pretty sad. I remember crying myself to sleep and just feeling very, very worried about what was going on with my life. And being a teenager, you kind of also have all the other worries of like your friends and what's going to happen. And it was really scary. So, I just also remember that the foster mom there, that morning that I woke up, she was just telling like the kids to get ready for school, to get me breakfast, like kind of demanding, and it wasn't very warm feeling. So that was my first placement experience, and that was one night. And then when I met with my social worker, she told me, we're either going to leave you in the home or we'll try to find you a new home. And I told her I didn't want to go back to that foster home, that it was a little too structured, if that's what you want to call it, strict, and not very comforting. So my second placement that I got placed in was with a high school friend of mine. I got placed in the home with another girl, and it was her grandma who was taking care of us. She was very, very nice, very welcoming. I felt super comfortable there. But I think at the time, her grandma probably didn't realize how much care went into what was going on with me and the other girl that was in foster care. So I would say probably after like a month, she told us that she couldn't take care of us anymore, and she brought us back to CPS. So that was really, really sad because we liked being there, and I was able to stay at my school and stay with my friends. And I didn't really understand why she took us back, but I know now that she did it because, you know, sometimes a lot of people go into it with their heart and not really think about all the responsibility that comes with being a foster parent. Um, and I think also because she was a little bit older too, that was a lot for her to handle. 3 teenage girls in one home. So then after that, I got placed in a shelter, and that was probably like jail, if I could describe it as anything. Um, Everything was structured from the time you ate, showered, slept, your phone calls. You couldn't take a nap or lay down on your bed during the day. It wasn't very pleasant. There was a lot of kids in there, and then the employees working there were just kind of like in and out, and it just didn't feel like a home at all. It was more of like an institution, or I don't know, it was really not very fun. Um, so after the shelter, I went to, well, I'm sorry, before that, before I moved from the shelter, I met a girl named Ashley, and she became one of my really good friends. Still friends with her to this day. And when I got placed, after being in the shelter, I got placed with a foster mom, and I had begged her to have Ashley come because she was still in the shelter. And she allowed her to come. We went on like a camping trip. The house was nice. They had a pool. It was in a nice area. She had a son that was my age that went to the school we were going to start going to. And things were okay for a little bit. And then slowly, there were times where we were not treated the same as her son. So we had certain foods that we could eat, things that we couldn't touch, times that we could use the phone. If her son wanted to be on the phone or use certain things, he was the one who got basically the control over that stuff. It even got to a point where her son was somewhat physical with me, over like using the dryer or something like that. He ended up pushing me. At that time, I was pregnant. I got pregnant when I was in her care. And when that whole situation happened and he pushed me, I left. I ran away. So I was gone for about 3 days. And then I went back to CPS. I actually had a pretty good relationship with my social worker. So I was able to talk to her and tell her kind of what was going on. And she convinced me to come back and that she would find me a better home. So I went back and ended up getting placed back into the shelter. By then, I think I was probably like 3 or 4 months pregnant. I stayed in the shelter for a couple of months, and then they found me another home, and that was my last foster home before I lived with my biological dad. And that foster home changed everything for me. So when I moved in there, immediately I felt super welcomed. I connected with their family, and they had 3 biological kids living there. And I didn't feel like I was a foster child. I didn't feel like a stranger. They connected me with other members of their family by taking me to parties or barbecues or things like that. So I didn't feel left out of anything. And then my foster mom, she was really, really amazing. She taught me different skills like how to do scrapbooking, and she was just really there for me. And she showed me a lot of motherly love that I was lacking in my life at that time. So I think that what she did for me was kind of give me this new sense of what a mother's supposed to look like. And I think from that point on, it's helped shape me into the mother that I am today. And without her, I'm not sure that I would be that mother, because I didn't have that structure or that example to kind of take in and put into my own parenting with my daughter, who I had at 16. So after that placement with them, they ended up moving out of state, and I had the option to be adopted by them or to return to my biological dad's house or to another foster home. Since I had just had my daughter, I wasn't trying to take her away from her dad and move out of state, and it just seemed like a lot to take in at that time. So I chose to try to work on my relationship with my biological dad and move in with him. And so I did, and I started going to school. Things were okay. And then my dad and I didn't really ever see eye to eye on things. He had a very different way of looking at all the situations I was in. He was kind of judgmental about me being a teen mom, which was understandable, but he didn't see it in the right way or express things in the right way. So I ended up running away from there at 17 and a half. I left with my daughter, who was, I think she was like she was like 6 months old. And I left to my grandma's in Modesto, actually, and I stayed there until I turned 18. And when I ran away, I never heard from anybody from CPS. And after that, my early adulthood was very messy, very challenging, led me to a lot of tough things to overcome. But I think that the one foster home that I had, it showed me kind of how important I was, and it always like brought up those feelings for me to know that things would be okay. I can get over things, and yeah, kind of where I'm at now and learning still, but doing much, much better. So,
Okay. Um, so now you're working for Parents by Choice
mm-hmm.
as our outreach specialist. You have four beautiful kids,
Yes.
and you're married.
Yes.
And you attribute this all to the one foster mother?
I would say so. I think um, she gave me kind of like a insight of what like a normal life should look like, I guess, if you want to call it that. And it helped me to want that for myself and to want to be the type of mother she was to her children and to me. And just having things peace, like things in peace and comfort, and wanting to be able to teach my kids things and be there for them. And I feel like if I didn't have somebody like that in my life, I probably would be a little bit more selfish. And I think that just kind of comes with the whole foster care. You only have yourself to depend on. And you do kind of get that mentality like you're just watching out for yourself. And when you don't have a parent to teach you how to parent, you're kind of stuck with what you were taught. And what I was taught wasn't obviously ideal. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in foster care. So I think that's kind of where things helped me with that foster home and learning how to be a mom.
Okay. All right. So we have Debbie in the chat. She says, how would you recommend foster parents make children welcome into their family?
So I say that the first thing you should do, like as soon as they get there, is talk to them. Don't be too shy. Make some sort of small talk with them so that they know that, you know, you do want to talk to them, you want to get to know them. Offering them food or drinks is always a great idea, at least for me, because that made me feel comfortable. And then taking them around your house and kind of showing them, like, oh, this is where the bathroom is, this is where the laundry room is. That kind of makes them feel welcome. It doesn't make them feel awkward when they do need to use a restroom or they need to use something and they know where to go without asking, because asking is really weird when you're supposed to be in your home. And then you're like, where's the bathroom? So taking care of those things in the beginning is really important to make them feel comfortable and just familiar with your home and your family.
Okay. All right. So, how? Oh, you've already got that one. Thank you, Debbie, for getting that one off the list. Sorry. How can a family support the youth through the emotions and obstacles they face with their biological parents?
So, one thing I would definitely not do as a foster parent is to talk negatively about the child's biological parents. Even if their parents aren't doing good, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and there's no like reunification efforts, a child doesn't want to hear all that, and they more than likely they don't understand. So expressing like all the negative things about their parents isn't going to help them, and it's going to kind of shut them down to where they don't want to have that open communication where they can feel that they can go and talk to you about their parents. We still want to talk about our parents. We most of the time love them still, even though they, you know, might have their troubles and things. But just, you know, not talking about them negatively, including their bio parents if they are reunifying or things are going good, or talking to their social worker first and making sure it's okay to include them in certain events. One of the things my last foster mom did for me was when I was pregnant with my daughter, she invited my mom to the baby shower she threw for me. And that was super special for me because even though my mom wasn't on track to get me back, she knew it was important for my mom to be there, and she made that happen. She reached out to my social worker and made sure that my mom was a part of that, which, you know, is time you can't get back. So doing things like that, and obviously making sure it's okay because everyone's situation's different, but doing things like that is very important. And we do want to remember our family and see them in a good light, even though we've gone through some really tough things with them.
Okay. So Debbie in the chat says, it probably wasn't an option for you to be placed with your grandmother at the time. things have changed, would you have liked to have been placed with her first?
Um, that's a good question. Honestly, I had talked to my grandma a couple, maybe like a year ago or so. And I told her a little bit about the situation I had went through as a teenager with foster care and my mom. And she actually didn't know I was in foster care. So one of the things that we were going to talk about later was that I had wished that CPS or my social worker would have dug a little bit more deeper into who I was related to, reaching out to my family members, because there are quite a few family members that I've talked to and they knew nothing about my situation. So they just kind of thought like, oh, well, our family's a little broken, so we don't talk to them anymore. But going back and talking to like an aunt and an uncle, they had both expressed like, oh, if we knew you were in foster care, we would have taken you in. Or if we knew, what was going on, we would have helped. And that's kind of sad because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like there should have been that opportunity there. So.
Okay. So what positive personal qualities do you think are linked to your experience in foster care?
Like I said, being a mother, I think it taught me some really good things. One of the things too is I got to do parenting classes while I was pregnant, which helped me a lot too to understand how to parent and how to be a mom. And I probably wouldn't have known where to start as a mom if I hadn't taken those classes or had the examples from my foster mom that I stayed with at the end there. I had Lily while I was staying with her, and so she helped me a lot to learn all the basic stuff and just caring for a baby. Something else, I think being resilient, being strong, knowing that you can push through things and overcome them and learning from everything you go through and use it as a learning experience for your next steps in life to build something better for yourself.
Okay. All right. So what negative personal qualities do you think are linked to your experience in foster care?
I think just probably that I used to be very drawn to toxic relationships, toxic friendships, kind of going in circles with my biological mom and dad and not healing from that trauma. And then obviously I have my own trauma that I still deal with that's gotten easier for me, but I had really bad anxiety, I had depression, that I got counseling for and has helped a lot, but those were some negative things that I think were from my childhood or my experience with foster care that impacted me in a very negative way. I don't know.
Okay.
There's other things I'm sure, but and kind of being selfish, but you're doing it because I felt as a teenager when I was in foster care, I only looked out for myself. Like I couldn't trust anybody. I couldn't depend on anybody. I felt like everybody was just out for themselves. So I kind of had that mindset for a while. And that was something hard to overcome.
Okay. All right. So what is something you wish you could have changed about your experience in foster care?
I think, like I had mentioned, just I wish that, my social worker or somebody would have reached out to other family members. I think it would have made it less traumatic to be still a part of my family, but going through what I went through and not be placed in so many different places or not have ran away so many times and gone through what I went through as a young adult. And then that also brings me to, even if I wasn't able to stay with family, I wish that there were more resources at that time for youth who age out of foster care. So some of the things that I went through as a young adult was bouncing around places to live. I was homeless for a little bit, just living out of my car. So some of those things I feel like could have been avoided if we had the resources or knowledge before we got out of foster care. I don't think anything's explained to you when you get out of foster care. I felt like once I ran away to my grandma's house, I was just cut off and I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know anything about school. I didn't know anything about credit. I didn't know anything really, how to be an adult. And I didn't have the resources to really find out or learn how to do those things. So it was a very tough learning experience for me to learn how to be an adult. And it took a long time.
All right. So Ari, I hope I'm saying that correctly, says, what types of resources do you think would help with teenagers aging out?
So, one thing that Parents by Choice offers is a transitional housing for teenage and young adult foster youth. And that's something we didn't have back in my day. So right now with Parents by Choice, I think it's good to spread the word about what there is for teenagers or youth that age out of foster care. Right now, some of the things that Parents by Choice can do for them is put them in an apartment and help them kind of get on their feet, teach them life skills and how to be an adult, which I think is such a blessing because, like I said, there was nothing of that sort back when I was in foster care. So I think that's amazing now, and that's one of the things that I learned when I started doing my research before I got a job with Parents by Choice was what they do for foster youth and how amazing the support is for them after they age out, and that's something that you can't get back. Like, I look back on my younger years, early 20s, and I'm like, wow, if I had that, like, I wouldn't have had to go through so much stuff with my kids, with myself, like, just everything. Like, I just wish that I had known, and I wish that there were those resources at that time.
Okay. So hopefully that answers your question, Ari. And again, I hope I'm saying that correctly. So you mentioned that the first home that you were placed in was very structured.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would have been a good home if it wasn't so structured?
I don't know, to be honest, because I was so young. I might be like remembering it in my own feelings, but I just think that there needed to be more interaction from the foster mom. Like, I wish that she would have been at least like, hey, everything's gonna be okay, just rest, or something, like some sort of comfort. There was like absolutely no comfort. It was just like, there's your bed, here's a pillow, go lay down. And I'm like in my clothes that I got, removed from my mom's care in. And it was just like, wow, like, what is this? What am I going through? Like, so many questions going on in my head and no reassurance, no comfort, no anything. And I just wish that for that first placement, especially for someone that's just got removed, like, it's crucial to just reassure them. Just say something nice. Even if you think it's not going to matter, just comfort them. Like, that's all I think about. And I'm like, that could have gone so differently had there been some sort of, like, I don't know, interaction.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say the most important characteristics for a foster parent?
I'd say patience. Being that kids who are removed from home obviously have gone through something. Even if they haven't, something that I've learned, just removing them from the home is traumatic in itself, which is true. That experience I remember clear as day, and in addition to my own traumas that I went through, it's a lot. So I think just having patience and kind of the compassion to put yourself in the child's shoes and just think to yourself, like, what they could be feeling. How would you feel if someone came in and took you away, and just understanding from their point of view. And then just love, honestly, like loving somebody as much as you would if they were your own biological child, not treating them different, not treating them like they are a foster child. Like, we're not just a foster child. We've gone through things that make us who we are and make us have behaviors that maybe aren't normal, but with someone's help, we can overcome them. And it's people that can offer that help that make all the difference for that child as they become an adult. And I think looking back, it's not so much your childhood that ruins everything for you. It's more of what somebody teaches you, and as an adult, how you handle all that trauma in your childhood that makes you go further as an adult and kind of get over that trauma and learn how to heal and get past those things.
Okay. Do you care to elaborate a little bit more about how you were removed? I know you mentioned that you were sexually abused by your mother's boyfriend. So how did CPS get involved? What did that look like on your perspective?
So, oof, getting deep on me. um, so, so yeah, my mom's boyfriend had sexually abused me. I had just learned that my mom was using drugs. She was going through a lot too, and so when that all happened, I had told my mom right away. My mom took me out of the home. Short story, or long story short, I should say, is that we ended up returning. My mom, I guess, didn't have anywhere for us to go. Kind of said like, "Oh, I'll put a lock on your door," but we were coming back. In my mind, I was kind of like, "Well, this isn't okay. This isn't right." But what was I to do? So I ended up telling somebody else. That's kind of how CPS got involved. Was that person was a friend of the family, I guess, and told her mom, and then she called CPS or made a police report. I'm not too sure how that went down. And then literally like probably a few days after that, I was sitting in my room. CPS came in and basically said, "Let's go." And we were just kind of like, "What's going on?" Because I wasn't the only child in the house. There was another girl and her two siblings. So we were kind of all shocked and just like, "Well, why? Like, what?" Like I didn't put two and two together. I didn't know like how things like that were handled. So I wasn't too sure. They took us to the town's elementary school and basically had a social worker question us and talk to us. And then we went to the CPS offices. And then from there, it was just kind of like waiting. We got a blanket and a bag. And then we all kind of went our separate ways. I got placed in the first foster home that I was in. And that's kind of how it started. And then there was multiple times where we had to go sit with the social worker, go over things on what was going on. Went to court a few times.
So did they let you like pack a bag or anything like that? It was just you in whatever you were wearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had just got home from school, I remember. And I remember also like telling myself like, "Oh, I had a horrible day at school," and I was like, "Oh, this day can't get any worse." And sure enough, it got worse. And I remember telling myself too like, "Oh, I thought about it like, oh, should we just jump out the window and leave? Like, I don't know what we should do. Like, this is crazy. Where are we going to go?" Like, I didn't know. But I mean, I wouldn't change being put into foster care. I think if I would have stayed where I was at, I think things would have probably been way, way worse, or I probably would have gone down a different path. So.
Okay. So Eddie asked, what would you say to foster parents that are nervous about taking in teens?
I would say don't be nervous. I think that everyone has this thought about teenagers and that they're hard to deal with, or they're going to cause trouble, or they're going to hurt me because they have all this trauma. And that's definitely not what I would say probably like 99% of teenagers are thinking about. We're thinking about like our friends. Are we going to be able to, see them? Are we going to be able to stay in our school? Like, we're thinking about that. We're thinking about what kind of experience we're going to have in your home. Are you guys going to love us? Are you going to care about us? And we're thinking about all, our biological family and what's going to happen with that. There's really nothing to be scared about. I would say that, most teenagers are looking for someone just to guide them and support them and help them transition into being an adult.
Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything you want to say to people that are interested in becoming a foster parent?
I would say that don't be scared of teenagers. They definitely need lots of love. And I think for teens who are close to aging out, if you could be there, even if it's for a month, to care for them, you could make all the difference in 1 month, just helping them, teaching them, loving them, and supporting them. And some people are scared too to take teen moms, but I was a teen mom, and we need a lot of love too and support. And if you're a mom or you're good with babies, taking a teen mom would really help them and make sure that they're learning how to mother and parent the right way. A lot of them don't have the best of examples to be a mother themselves, so I would say if you have the heart for that, to definitely look into fostering teen moms or teenagers in general.
Okay. And Ari just wants to say thank you for sharing your story. They truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was really hard for me. I'm really nervous.
So if you guys want to become a foster parent or want to learn more, you can visit our website, www.parentsbychoice.net/programs/foster care. That will give you all the information you need, tells you the qualifications to becoming a foster parent, tells you a little bit about the process, and if you are working with the Modesto office, you might be working with Cynthia a little bit more. And she'll help you get through the process and answer any of your guys' questions. So, if that's it, then thank you guys for joining us. We'll be live again Thursday at 3 o'clock, and I will have Amanda. I'm not even going to try her last name. But Amanda is one of our mental health clinicians, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about our mental health program. She may have some mental health tips for you, especially since May is not just Foster Care Awareness Month, it is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So we'll share a little bit more about that. So, all right. Thank you, Debbie.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to my story.
Thank you for sharing. All right, so we'll see you guys all again Thursday at 3 o'clock.